on the outside, everything looks successful, but on the inside, clarity narrows, no clarity. And decision fatigue increases, and patience shortens, and body pain start to come, right? So I call this achievement fatigue. So it's when success is still happening, but it's powered by stress instead of alignment.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here again. Thank you very, very much, as always, for taking the time to join me. And today I'm delighted to be joined by transformational leadership strategist Grace Najean, who helps high performers break free from stress-driven success and step into effortless influence. Grace is a former master coach for Tony Robbins, someone who's very, very close to my heart. I've done a lot of Tony Robbins work over the years, and is a corporate strategist and the creator of the Soulfluence Awakening, and that helps leaders shift from burnout to balance, from mental fatigue to clarity, and from reactive leadership to intuitive influence. Grace has coached thousands of executives, entrepreneurs, and impact-driven professionals, integrating mental clarity, energy alignment, and leadership embodiment to create sustainable success. If you've ever felt stuck in overachievement, mentally drained, or disconnected from your deeper purpose, today's conversation will be a game changer for you. Grace, thank you very, very much for taking the time to join me today.
Wow, Gary, thank you so much for the introduction. Indeed, the soul influence, it's a soulful influence. Two words together. That's where that comes from, the soulfluence. It's not each word, even for me.
I love it. I love it. So what I like to do, Grace, is take the opportunity at the beginning to get to the point. I mentioned a few parts of your history there. We had a chance to connect prior to recording, and you have a very interesting journey in terms of the work that you did with Tony Robbins in the beginning, how you transitioned from that work and up to what you're doing now, which got to Soulfluence and the work that you're doing. So give us an overview of how it all played out for you.
Yeah, of course, sure. So, again, thank you so much for having me and then to serve your audience. Yeah, I'm very honored to be here today. And hey, my path has been a little unconventional. So I started as a concert classical music pianist. Then worked in corporate strategy in Europe, in Paris. And later I spent over 8 years, as you mentioned, as a master coach with Tony Robbins. So coaching leaders around the world. So today I help high achievers and executives from, as you mentioned, the stress-driven success into what I call effortless soulful leadership. So I was born in Korea, and I finished my high school, and then I went to Europe in Paris, and then I studied in Europe and worked in Paris for 10 more years. So I lived in Korea 19 years, in Europe for 19 years, now in Australia, in Perth, since 2007. So obviously I changed the continent every 19 years. So I have 2 more years here, and let's see what comes up.
Fascinating. So the journey into coaching for you, what was the attraction for you at that point in your life, and why Tony's program? What spoke to you at that particular time?
Yes, now I look back at the beginning, I didn't know, I started coaching study just by curiosity. And then someone told me, oh, you're going to be so good as a coach because you have a different backgrounds, you have a different experiences, so you can share and support people. So I thought it was just a career path for another success, right? And the more I do, there are depth of things. I had a feeling like I can coach everyone but anyone. That's exactly where I was. And then, when you study coaching, everybody talks about Tony Robbins here, Tony Robbins there. But to be honest, I didn't know about it until then. So I was like, who is this guy? I really need to go and see him. So fortunately, he came to Australia in that, like 12, 13 years ago. He did few times in Australia. So I went to in Sydney with another friend who was doing coaching study. And then, okay, let's start, let's try at least, don't be stupid, right? And I went to see his event, 4 days immersion of UPW, what we call Unleashed Power Within. And, that changed seriously my life. It was, I had so many breakthroughs, and then it's amazing. I was like, why nobody told me about this before in my life, right? So then I signed up every single event. So I took whole package of Tony Robbins. So I did his 4 events within 5 months. So I did only events and then come back changing my life, go event and then come back my routines, patterns, my health, and then everything. So after 5 months, I started to have a clarity. So I set up my own coaching practice.
Yeah.
And I started to coach corporate leaders because that's where I felt more comfortable. Then 6 months later, my own Tony Robbins coach invited me to apply to become Tony Robbins coach. And then that's how my journey started with the Tony Robbins. And then it was a quite long process, 6 months. And I went through this, and then I became his coach since 2013. And since then, I worked for him 8 years, and only for his clients, I coached 3,000 hours within that 8 years. So here you go, you know everything now.
I love it. I love it. It's such a fascinating journey, and being so immersed in everything that was happening, and actually experiencing the breakthroughs yourself, to then supplement that with the wide and varied corporate experience that you already had, to then give you that opportunity of such a robust package for clients and prospective clients is just such an incredible situation. Then you move on. You use your experience. You've got to a point where it's time to do something new. You take a breather, and then you decide to do something that's more attuned with your own journey, your own values, your own spiritual path. Would it be fair to say that?
Yes, absolutely. So in 2013, very beginning of my coaching journey, because I was not used to meditations or yoga and those things, I was a typical high achiever corporate woman. And I was like, yoga is after the retirement when I have a time. Meditation is after the death, I don't have time to sit down 5 minutes or 20 minutes, just close your eyes, do nothing. So that was typically me. And then 2013, one of a Tony Robbins event, had experience of long. I don't remember seriously how long it was. Maybe it could be 30 minutes, 1 hour, 90 minutes. I don't know. I was so immersed. And then I had the kind of what we call awakening experience of that energy centers of meditations. So because I was a pianist, I think I was very sensitive and receptive about the music sounds. So all these sounds and then frequencies, vibrations with the colors and then, everything made me like a really, now I understand it's a neuroscientific coherence happened, At the time, it was so mystical, I didn't understand. So I had that brain and heart coherence, what you call, and some spiritual word is a heart awakening experience I had. So it was such a strong and sudden, whole my universe changed.
Yeah.
So since then, I was drawn by this more deepening of spirituality or soulful work or whatever you want to call, consciousness. So I did all my journey. So name it, I did a TM meditation, I did a Vipassana, I did a Prana meditation, I did a yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, everything I haven't done before. I did everything. Yeah. So I left Tony 2021. because my daughter was at the time pro tennis player, very young, and then she wanted to experience the tour experience. So I left him and supported my daughter, only taking care of my own private clients online, and I was traveling around the world. And at the same time, I decided to 2021, I think that was the 2nd of August. I started my meditation from Joe Dispenza's work because I went through a few documentaries, a few programs that it really resonated to me, the higher consciousness in scientific way.
Yeah.
So I committed myself because I was traveling. I couldn't do anything else anyway. Going to seminar was impossible, doing the things. So I committed the meditation. So at the beginning, 6 months, I think I did 2-3 hours of meditation every day. And then gradually reduced. Now I do still 1 to 1.5 hours meditation every day. That's my routine, morning routine. I wake up, I just straight go to meditation. And then ready to start my day and then serve others, right? So I think that experience since 2021 gave me such higher level of consciousness, yeah, and self-awareness, self-love, and all these things. So I'm very blessed. So now my daughter is in college tennis in US. So now I'm back and then start to do really my own, voice, my own messages I want to send out. So that's the Soulfluence was born.
Yes. Incredible. Absolutely incredible to continue to sustain that level of intensity in terms of your own growth work, and then to use that for good. So one of the things you mentioned there is you have a practice today that involves 90 minutes of meditation, non-negotiable. You do that every day. How you also mentioned earlier, you were so busy in your life that there was no time for meditation, or yoga was for retired people and things like that. So how do you bring both of those worlds together to show people that, if they have no wellness practices
Mm,
going on
mm.
whatsoever, if it's just pedal to the metal for work, 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 how do you say in two ways, and I don't know if this is what you say, but how do you say the way you're doing it right now is not sustainable? It's not, and there's actually a more congruent way to be able to do this to achieve even greater results and even greater sense of self. Is that part of your work and the ability to be able to demonstrate to your clients?
Yes, absolutely. So you are absolutely right. I'm not saying I would never say do the meditation 1 hour to my clients. It's impossible, right? 5 minutes is, already a lot for few people. Yeah. Some of them already in the kind of initiation level, but it depends on people. Especially for beginners, I'm gonna share at the end of our talk. But I create like a 10 minutes, um, but everything starts from your own decision.
Yeah,
You need to know what you want. You still want it really running all the time. Because, as I mentioned, I spent 8 years coaching with the founders, executives, leaders, all high achievers, right? But what I noticed is high achievers don't struggle because they lack ambition or intelligence. They struggle because they are exhausted internally because they've been pushing through so long. So they're achieving, but they are doing it from pressure. So on the outside, everything looks successful, but on the inside, clarity narrows. Yeah, no clarity. And then decision fatigue increases and patience shortens and body pain start to come, right? So I call this achievement fatigue. I know it because I've been there too. So it's when success is still happening, but it's powered by stress instead of alignment. Yeah. So that's why I created that, little steps they can grow with the time. Um, but everybody has a different pattern. So if you have a 5 minutes, I will give you 5 minutes. If you have a 20 minutes, I will give you 20 minutes. If you
yeah,
are really, really high achiever, I'm going to do it 1 hour every day. I can adapt, give you 1 hour routine, and then we can adjust as well. So it needs to be personalized and realistic and achievable, and chewable.
Yes, exactly that. So, intuitive influence. I think I shared when we met prior to recording, where I heard such a profound statement at a conference I was at in 2025, where the person said the body is smarter than the brain in terms of information it's going to provide to the brain. Then the brain does a filter, and then there's an ability to push down the information it's giving you, and then you get a chance to persevere. So, in terms of the intuitive influence that you would work with and for your clients, knowing that it's different for each person, what types and styles of patterns do you see in terms of behaviors of people? I know Tony's very much a patterns guy. Recognize the patterns, and then you'll have more information to be able to do something proactive or positive with. How does that go in terms of the patterns that you're seeing with the types and styles of people you're working with today?
Yeah, so because I work with most of leaders, right? So I consider myself a self-leadership coach and a speaker, because most of my clients, they're amazing leaders. They serve others, all their lives are for others.
Yeah,
Family,
yeah,
team, company, KPI, shareholders, and all this, right? So I think they've been neglecting themselves. So sometimes, some people comes and, hey, Grace, I want to be happy. That's not a problem. Yeah, let's do that. And but what makes you happy? Then there's a big silence. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. So guess what? If you don't know what makes you happy, what's the chance you can be happy? Because you don't know, right? So I think for me, it's all about self-awareness and self-leadership. You can lead yourself if you don't know who you are. So you need to know, like others, I bet they know every single team members who they are and how they are, but they don't know themselves. Yeah. Most leaders think they need a better strategy. Yeah. But at senior levels, the issue isn't strategy, it's state. And a state, I'm going to explain to you later, but state is a combined of body, mind, and consciousness, soul, or in your inside inner work, right? So that three things are together. That's the state for me. So your nervous system determines your leadership quality. It's not everybody just stressed, rushed, reactive. Yeah,
yeah,
but you can't make decision from that state. Yeah.
yeah,
High performers are very good at functioning in stress. I think the word they hate is burnout. So my
yeah,
clients come, Grace, somebody told me I'm burnout. No, I'm not. It's like almost like a badge of honor, right? It's destroyed. So they cope with it. Yeah,
yeah,
not a problem. But come back to your question. It's pattern for me. I define that 3D, 4D, 5 leadership in simple terms. Yeah. Um, it's in three levels. It's not about something mystical or quantum physics and that like that, but as an operating system. Yeah. It's such a easy to understand. So 3D is a survival mode where most of high achievers are operating. So everything feels urgent, time feels scarce because we are in that matrix of time and money scarcity. And money feels tight. No matter how much you make, you push or you freeze. So decision comes from fear of failing behind and comparing with the others where I am. Am I better? Or they're gonna, overpass me, or I'm behind. So this is a stress-driven leadership, 3D. Now, some of my clients are in 4D because they do personal development, they read the books, they do podcasts, and all these things. So this is when leaders are starting to see their patterns. They can disconnect, detach from their patterns. So they pause more, they question urgency, they start to do exercises, some of them morning routines, and they start thinking about purpose and values. Yeah. So they know lots of things and start to applying it into their life, but pressure is still there because transformation doesn't come from your mind. Yeah. But now it's being managed. 5D, that's where I want to really bring all my clients, are the coherent leadership. So this is where something shifts. You are calm but powerful. You are centered, clear but not rigid, and strategic without being stressed. So you respond instead of reacting. So, of course, because of that, your decisions feel clean and aligned. Yeah. So if I resume, 3D is a reaction, 4D is reflecting, and 5D is responding from alignment.
Yeah. I mean, it's so profound, and I imagine that's going to resonate with so many people when they hear it. One of the things that you had mentioned to me previously was we have three brains, and not everyone knows and understands that. Could you explain the three brain? And I think it's probably congruent with a lot of what you just talked about there.
Yes, absolutely. There's an amazing book if you're ever interested in go to in deeper level. It's MBIT BIT multi-brain function. So there's a scientific proven saying you have three different brains. Your only brain you think you have is your brain from head, but
Yeah.
we have that neurons in our heart and in our gut as well. Of course, if you see the quantity of neurons is most important is in brain, but God has still that the its own brain functioning system. That's why we say often, "Oh, I have that gut feeling." You
Yeah.
know, so it's not innocent really. So it needs to be aligned again. It comes down to body mind. So similar things, but your gut feeling, gut is all about your courage. When
Yeah.
you some people have like when they stress, they have a tummy pain, right? The tummy stress.
Yeah.
Because that's all where the courage comes from. Yeah. And heart is your empathy and compassion and love, self-love or love for others. And this brain is we think this is intelligence, but it's not. It's the higher purpose of your brain is creation. But if you are disconnected, you think it's only intelligence and knowledge, and then you overuse it, and then you are caught. So most of people working from this space rather than this space. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no hearts. Some people can't even connect with their heart, or some people completely disconnected with their gut. They have a digestive system and their intestinal system. So, all goes off. So again, you need to be aligned. To do that, for me, it's a body, mind, and your consciousness to be aligned together.
Yeah. And so one of the things that was a bit of a theme for some of the clients you were talking about earlier is there's a propensity to say, I'm not burned out, I don't burn out, that's not me. But other people are saying that I might have to do something about the way that I am right now, something like that. So in terms of overachievement, and people that you would work with or people that you would counsel in some way to figure out that overachievement isn't always a good thing. It's not. It can be problematic in life. Like how do you educate people to say, from an overachievement perspective, you could be overloading the system. I'm just using some words here; they're not scientifically proven, of course, but how do you take people on that journey to say there could be an incongruence here with what it is you're actually thinking that you're doing and what it is you're actually doing. How does that type and style of conversation go?
Yeah. Yeah. So most leaders try to solve not burnout, but stress, business with the productivity tools.
Yeah,
Yeah. They put
yeah,
more system, they put more process, they do more training, and then all these things. But burnout is not a time problem. It's an energy problem. So when your body is dysregulated, your thinking shrinks. Yeah. Of course. Why? Because your brain is part of your body, believe or not. So the Soulfluence method, we start with the body. When I say body, it's not about building your muscle and then strengthen. It's not about that. It's really about your energy centers. I've been working a lot with the qigong. Qi is your energy, yeah. And then tai chi, again chi. There are lots of energy, prana energy. So it's all about your energy. And then I based on there are so many different methodologies, but I based on the 7 different energy centers. So we really work on that and doing some basic posture of qigong and yoga to open your body, because usually nowadays we work all in front of the computer, so your posture is like a curved, right, and hunched. And phone, same thing, we never make this kind of position, yeah, and therefore we don't have enough oxygen. So I suffer some breathing work and some posture, so to open and receive that much oxygen, yeah, you can have. So if your biology is in survival mode like this, no mindset tool with stick. You can work on your mindset, mind, feel, and strength. It'll last maybe a few hours or few days. That's it. Then you go straight back to that survival mode, right? So you can lightly reference neuroscience, as you mentioned, without going too deep. You know, um, when you're stressed, we react from fear. And when we are calm, we think clearly and make better decisions. Yeah, it's a logic, isn't it? So I really empathize again, body, mind, soul, or consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. It's not at all the spiritual, religious connotation. Yeah. Um, so your body is really your energy and a nervous system, and then your mind is a thinking and decision pattern, and then your deeper awareness, your consciousness, your values, and intuition. When those three are aligned, leadership becomes finally effortless. So not passive, but clean and centered. So that's what I call the soulfluence of, where soul meets influence. There you go.
yes, yes. And the reason for starting with the body before you go work on other areas is just as you described there, that opportunity to use this vehicle that we've been given that we're kind of misusing in a way to say this is the foundation. If you get this part right, there it becomes more congruent with the gains that you're going to get in the future, or is it easier in the future? Is that what Soulfluence? That's the reason and rationale for starting with the body.
Yes, absolutely. And as I had been before, um, this is a paradox. Most executives or leaders, high achievers resist because you have a fear of slowing down because it feels unproductive.
Yes, it does exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. At the beginning, when I start to have like a spa or having my time, I was like, do I deserve this? Am I not supposed to do something? The kind of feeling of fear, you know. But it took me quite a while to get used to that. But when you pause, your thinking sharpens. So as I mentioned, my daughter was, tennis pro, and then a lots of coaches, and I think it's a Federer, Roger Federer, as mentioned, they practice many, many, many hours, yeah.
Yeah.
And he said the progress you are practicing during that exercises is not how can I say embodied during the exercise, during the practice. It's only when you have a rest, when you have a break, that's where your body embodied. It's like your muscle. When you do
Yeah,
muscle exercises, weight, it's
yeah,
not the moment you do weight, it's when you pause 20 seconds in between. That's where your muscle grows, right? It's the same thing. So if you pause, your decision will improve because that's the time that your brain needs to absorb and process, right? Therefore, your communication strengthens as well because you're clear, so you can communicate better. So slowing down is not doing less. It's removing internal noise and calm down, make it clear.
yeah. And as you say, such a paradox. You need to slow down to speed up. I mean, that's something I've heard in business for quite some time, but it's more transactional in terms of this process doesn't work right now. So if we fix it by a system or a new process or adding people or taking people away, whatever that is, then you have an opportunity to go. The principle is kind of still the same, but when you put it on yourself to say, why don't you try it? I can imagine. I'm thinking of many people that I've been fortunate to work with and observe over the years that would resist, that would say, and by the way, I kind of feel like that now and again. If I'm in some way not materialistically moving things forward, it can feel like a waste of time. Time is my greatest enemy. I hate the thought of wasting time. So what I really see from you, Grace, is the opportunity to understand that that's not what I'm doing. Just because what I'm doing in that moment is different to what I would typically do, which is a podcast, a phone call, a client meeting, a coaching session, a teaching session, a speaking engagement. Those sorts of things where I'm kind of thinking, all the things are lining up, but maybe I'm not, and maybe that's okay for that period of time, but it's not okay and sustainable for a longer period of time. It's absolutely genuinely food for thought, and the ability to be able to say it all starts with me, and I loved what you said earlier in terms of leaders are generally living for something outside of themselves, whether it is shareholder value, whether it's market share, whether it's profitability, whether it's the ability to expand or grow in the workplace and space. So even using that, I'm actually kind of thinking almost in terms of trying to convince them that this is going to help them do that exponentially better, more efficiently, in terms of the clarity of decisions and such. Because if they fall over on their side and they can't get back up again, kind of metaphorically speaking, nothing they're going to, like, all that service is going to stop dead and of the moment. It's absolutely fascinating. You must get such joy from the work that you do and to see the growth of your clients.
Absolutely. Some of my clients are, through their testimonials, they said their all body pains gone. They couldn't sleep, lack of sleep, insomnia issues, neck pain, body pain. They lose weight naturally. So I do retreat for 7 days. They come, they eat so well, and they still lose weight. That lightness and all that. So come back to your, the statement before. I think there are a few aspects impacting us why we are that way. Like for instance, in your case, yeah, I hate wasting time, right?
Yeah.
But what does that idea comes from? Where does that come from? Were you born with that thoughts?
Great question. I couldn't. I'm not sure I was born with it. What my mindset is I have a certain amount of tools and a certain amount of time to be able to use those tools for my benefit and the benefit of those that I care about. And if I were to sit and be involved in a conversation or an interaction or an event that bore no resemblance to helping other people, to growing, to learning, to creating connection with other people, I wouldn't walk away saying, well, that was a gigantic waste of time. But I would in my head, and maybe even verbally, if I was with someone, I would say, now I know I won't do that again. And so I'll take the benefits. So it's not hate in terms of, any aggression or negative thoughts or
Yeah,
feelings.
I got it.
I'm
Yeah.
just I'm very, very purposeful about how I spend my time, who I spend my time with, and what I'm doing in those times.
Mm,
I have the odd moments, or the odd few moments in my life where it's enjoyment. It's pure just enjoyment. I'm going to go do something that's kind of nonsense because it's fun and it's funny and things like that. So I'm not saying that every single second is accounted for, but there's way more purpose behind it than people would typically see. And I'm not dictating this is what's going to happen and that's what's going to happen and that's what's going to happen. It's just the way that I build into it. It's the way that my energy flows into what it is that I'm doing, all with the enemy of time being present to kind of just give me a wink to say, I'm here if you stop paying attention, and we can waste a full weekend on Netflix, easy if you want. We can
mm,
go and so I'm really always hyper aware,
mm,
especially the older I get, that I don't want to do that. I don't think
mm.
it serves me, and I know that it certainly doesn't serve others for the most part.
Absolutely. So that's the thing. That's the beauty, Gary. With that one question, you spend a few minutes about self-awareness. It's more
Yeah,
clear for you. Why do I have that? But most of people, they don't. So apparently we have a 30,000 thoughts a day. But on the 30,000 thoughts, if you ask it truly, truly, honestly yourself, how many thoughts are mine? You know, how
yeah,
many are mine? Is it seriously what I believe? Did I create that thoughts?
yeah,
No, most of the time it's conditioning. From, don't get me wrong, my parents loved me. I love my daughter, but still I condition her. I pass my conditioning to her, right? So from young age, school, you go to school, what they teach you, be like everyone. Sit down, don't move. And you need to be the best. You need to beat the next guy to be the better score. Then you worth it, right? So we conditioned to compare and scoring ourselves. We think that's the only measure we can have our worth. Uh, so that conditioning. And then you go to uni, same thing. You have to have a degree to have a good job. And then you go to good job. You need to, have a work hard to please your boss. And then after that, you become boss. Then you need to work harder to maintain then and make a better outcome and KPI and then all these things, right? So we are conditioned almost, whole our life to be that way. And most of the worst conditioning we have is lack of money and lack of time. We never have enough time. We never have enough money. But is that true? Is that really, really true? Look back when you are young. Was it true? It's
yeah.
not. It's
It was,
conditioning, right? So I think there are lots of part of conditioning. One, and then think about, ask yourself, is it truly my voice?
yeah,
So I think that impacts a lot in our decisions and in our thinking system, believing that's our proper belief and our proper guidance. Your thoughts are not you, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So here you go.
It's so profound. I had a conversation with my son in the last few weeks, and it was around his thought pattern in terms of conditioning. It resonates so much with me in terms of his thought patterning of, okay, I'm going to graduate high school, I'm going to go to university, I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to have to do everything that you just described there. And I said, you don't have to do any of that. I would love you to go to university because I want you to learn how to learn. I don't mind whatsoever what you study there. I don't mind about your grades. I just want you to apply yourself and do the best you can with whatever choices that you make. In terms of your career, it depends. What this was the conversation. I says it depends on what you want from your career. You haven't really discovered yet. He's 16 right now. You haven't discovered yet what you're really, really good at, what you really, really enjoy, how you want to feel, how you want to be. And he's had a few jobs up to this point. So he's getting a feel for the workplace and who he is in the workplace. He'll come back and complain about co-workers or things not working, equipment, plant machinery, dysfunctional, processes being difficult to navigate. And we sit down, excuse me, we sit down and have a conversation, and I'm saying, think of the learning that you're getting, think of the growth that you're getting, think of the preferences that you can develop from this point. And sometimes he's like, Dad, just let me complain. I didn't
Mm,
like it. And I'm
mm,
saying, absolutely, I can do that too. But let's not leave the scene of a good conversation
mm,
without a learning where we can take that away. And your career can be whatever it wants. And exactly what you were saying there, Grace, in terms of the time and money, the scarcity that we apportion to time and money. You don't
mm,
need that much money to live a type and style of lifestyle that might be completely congruent with who you are as a person and what you want to achieve in your lifetime. So it's trying to really embody that within him to say, I don't quite know where you're comparing yourself to for right now, but you get to chart your own path and you
mm,
get to do it completely congruent with who you are as a person, and you get to learn about yourself as a person
mm,
every
mm,
single day. If you think it's all just about ladder climbing and promotions and nicer material, possessions and things in your life, there's kind of nothing wrong with that as well. But there's going to have to be something else that's deeper for
mm,
you. And I hope you discover that
mm,
earlier rather than later, so that there's not a lot of, I don't want to sound sensationalist, but not a lot of damage done,
mm,
that's more difficult to fix down the
mm,
line.
mm,
Look after, and I say that to students as well, that when I'm teaching is, if you do nothing else, look after your body. It's the only one you've got. And you
mm,
need to give yourself the best shot when you're in
mm,
your 40s, 50s, and 60s of
mm,
looking back and patting yourself on the shoulder and saying,
mm,
thank you for all the healthy choices that you made for
mm,
me in the lifetime. So just so much congruence with the types of styles of conversations I'm trying to have to prevent that conditioning, and
mm.
some of it lands, some of it doesn't land. It's the same with any conversation that anyone has with anyone, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a beautiful, example. Um, but don't get me wrong, having infinite abundance, including finance, it's amazing. It's a good thing. It's nothing wrong with that. But when it becomes only goal, only life, it's not from the abundance space, but it's from fear,
Yeah,
scarcity.
yeah,
That's what is wrong. Yeah. So I coach also 16, 17, 19, because my clients, they ask me if I can coach their children, right? So then I coached a few of them, and believe or not, all of them, first thing they say is, I need a stability. Stability. I don't know where does that come from, but everybody, and a financial stability.
right.
So their goal is 16, 17, 19. Their goal is either they're high school or either beginning just the uni. And they said, I need to have a good score. I need to
Yeah,
have a good degree. So then I can get a good job, and then I can have a financial stability, and then I can have a job, the house, and then I can afford my family, all these things. And that's what I need to do, it's too
yeah,
serious, And then I said, okay, then what's your dream? What do you like? If you have ever dream, what do you like? And they said, oh, I love writing children's book. Oh, I love human psychology and all that. So what are you gonna do with that? Oh, no, no, no. I don't have time. I'm gonna do this when I'm retired.
yeah,
What have we done? Our
yeah,
children.
yeah,
Yeah? Is it really truly what we want to pass on? And children's is a monkey see, monkey do. You can say whatever you want to say, but if they don't see on you what you're doing, they're not gonna do it anyway, right? So you spot on. You are such a great dad, having that. Some people even don't have that conversation, you know.
Yeah, that's so profound. Such a great conversation. So, Grace, as you know, this is called the Best You um, interview series, the Best View podcast. And what I like to do is take this opportunity to ask every guest, what's one regular practice that you employ to give Grace the best opportunity to be the best version of herself?
Yeah. So I do longer version, but for my beginners clients, which I'm going to share, it's just under 10 minutes exercise. It's so simple. People wouldn't believe, hey, it's so simple. It's not going to work. No, it is. It is such a profound, if you do it 7 days, you will see already the differences. And then if you do 30 days, you will see real result, right? So there are 4 things you need to do every morning. So we think the food is the most important thing for our body, but it's not. It's oxygen and water are more important for your body. Yeah. Without oxygen, you can survive few minutes. Without water, few days. Yeah. And without food, you can survive 30 days. Some people, extremely. Yeah. But so let's start with the breathing. It's so simple. Breathe in for 6 and breathe out for 6 slowly. So inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, but using your tummy, not your chest. Some of my clients breathe like this way. It's not breathing. Yeah, using your tummy. So you do it for 2, 3 minutes only. But I bet you, if you do 2, 3 minutes, you feel so good, you want to continue. If you can do 5 minutes, even better. I know someone who changed his life doing this 15 minutes a day. Seriously, because it whole regulated your nervous system. Yeah, so you will be different. So 66 breathing. Let's start with that 2, 3 minutes. After that, no need of meditation. Let's start with a simple thing, counting down. Yeah, but I will give you a little tip. So counting down, usually 60 to 1 or 100 to 1. That's ideal. But most of my clients, they have a difficulty to 61. Some client call me and, Grace, each time when I get 37, my mind goes away. I'm disturbed, right? I'm distracted. So let's start with a 10 to 1 first today. But you out loud softly 10. You need to say it 10. And you need to visualize number in front of you 10. So it'll take some time. 10. Visualize. 9. Visualize 9. 8. Envision 8. 7 and go on. So 10 to 1 slowly. It'll give you 10 seconds of disconnection between your brain and your thoughts. Yeah. And
Yeah,
your brain can be so happy. Oh, thanks. Finally, I have a dead break, 10 minutes, 10 seconds, right? So you can increase 10 to 1, 20 to 1 every day, 10. So 60 to 1 or 100 to 1 up to that. Yeah.
yeah,
And after that, once you are there, close your eyes. Already you closed eyes with the numbers. And from there, you visualize your day. Because your brain doesn't know what you are imagining and what you're doing. So if you put like a lemon, close your eyes, imagine yourself biting lemon. Your saliva will come just naturally, right? It's the proof. So you
yeah,
can already set your day as you want. How do you want to be? How do you want to show up? What are the outcomes you want to see as a successful? More important thing is you need to fit it. Okay, I got this. I have this important meeting. I need to talk and confident, and then everybody happy, and then you feel that confidence in your body, right? So you can set your day from the beginning to the end. Yeah, that's a 2-3 minutes again. Yeah, so breathing 2-3 minutes, counting down 1 or 2 minutes max, right? And visualization 2-3 minutes. Hey, last one. So still close your eyes. You can put your hands on your heart, or you can at the middle. It's up to you. Whatever your preference, or just on your laps. And gratitude. So just close your eyes. I'm so grateful for my health. I'm so grateful for my family. I'm so grateful for my house. Or sometimes I do, I'm so grateful for my dessert last night. you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So little things, big things. So that's all for a few minutes, 2 minutes. Start with the 2 minutes. If you can't be grateful for 2 minutes, what is your life look like,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So the gratitude is the most powerful emotion in your body you can create as a higher frequency, higher vibration. Yeah. So it will set you really in that stable and clarity and making better decision for the day. So that's my 10-minute tips.
I absolutely love it. Grace, before I let you go, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, sure. So my website is my name. So www.gracenajean, Najean.com. You can find everything there, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Grace Najean, Najean. Just send me a text message, direct message, and then I can respond to you as well. Oh, I run a retreat, 7-day retreat, complete, disconnection from your life, and then making that transformation. So that's in Lombok near Bali, Indonesia in November. So that's a beautiful, like a luxury, 46 rooms only there. And then every single room has our ocean view, and it's on the cliff. So you hear ocean hitting the cliff when you
Yeah.
wake up.
Tremendous. Excellent. I'll get all the details for that and put that into the show notes for this. Grace, this has been a tremendous conversation. I've learned lots, and I really appreciate the opportunity for a wee bit of coaching from you as well during that. Thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.